Very warm welcome to viewers in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital, and from around the world. This is Worldview. My name is Xavier Robert, and on our top stories today, French leader Emmanuel Macron expected to give speech on regional security at GlobeSec Forum in Slovakian capital of Bratislava today, a month before major NATO summit in Vilnius on July 11 through 12. Central African Republic President Anjanj Touadera says his country will hold constitutional referendum in July that would potentially allow him to seek re-election in 2025. And U.S. announces measures against Kosovo for ignoring its advice to avoid raising tensions in majority Serb northern areas. Details of these stories and more in a moment. First on Worldview today, Russia has seen intensifying attacks on its soil over a year into its Ukraine campaign, with an unprecedented incursion last week in the southern region of Belgorod and a drone attack on Moscow on Tuesday. Regional Governor Vyacheslav Gladkov said on Telegram that they have started evacuation of children from the Shebekino and Gravoron districts, referring to the most affected border areas. The governor said the first 300 children will be taken to Voronezh, a city around 250 kilometers further into Russia. And Gladkov said the situation was worsening in the village of Shebekino, which was hit by a rocket. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin has responded to Tuesday's drone attacks on the capital Moscow, accusing Ukraine of trying to frighten Russians. He said civilians were targeted, but air defenses dealt satisfactorily with the threat. The defense ministry said at least 8 drones caused minor damage, but Kiev has denied responsibility. This is the first time the city has been targeted by multiple drones since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin said no one was seriously injured, but several drones fell on an exclusive western suburb where senior officials live. According to Putin, the attack had been a response to what he described as a Russian attack on Ukraine's military intelligence headquarters in recent days, though international media watch reports being unable to independently verify whether any such attack took place. In the meantime, Moscow installed head of the occupied region in eastern Ukraine, Leonid Pasechin, has said that 5 people were killed and 19 others injured in Ukrainian shelling of Luhansk. Pasechin made this known on his Telegram page, noting that 2 of those injured in the shelling of Kapati village, Perevalsk district, are in serious condition in hospital. Meanwhile, Ukraine has denied involvement in the drone attack on Russia's capital, Moscow, and responded with the region. An advisor to the presidential office in Kiev, Mikhailo Podolyak, said they are not directly involved. He scoffed that Russian drones may have returned to their senders. At the same time, the Ukrainian government's advisor predicted that the number of attacks on Russian territory would probably continue to increase. In a related development, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said preparation for an intergovernmental deal on nuclear energy is in its final stage. Lavrov made the remarks after holding talks with Burundi's Foreign Minister Albert Shingiro in Bujumbura. Recall that the 2 countries signed a nuclear energy roadmap deal in November last year, in which Russia agreed to assist Burundi set up atomic plants. Lavrov said that the roadmap on nuclear energy has already been signed between Rosatom, Russian State Energy Corporation, and its Burundian partners. He said both parties were committed to cooperating in the peaceful use of nuclear energy. Away from that, Emmanuel Macron is expected to give a speech on regional security at the GlobeSec Forum in the Slovakian capital of Bratislava today, a month before a major NATO summit in Vilnius on July 11 to 12. The heads of state and heads of government of NATO are expected to reaffirm their political and military support for Ukraine, which has been plagued for 15 months by a Russian offensive. The offensive has been a worrying development for neighboring countries that also gained their independence from the Soviet bloc. Reports say that Emmanuel Macron has more than once sparked disapproval from his peers by suggesting not to humiliate Russia and to grant it, like Ukraine, security guarantees at the end of the war so as not to repeat the errors of 1918, which led to the rise of Nazi Germany. In a separate development, the Central African Republic CAR President Assange Touadera has said that his country will hold a constitutional referendum in July that would potentially allow him to seek re-election in 2025. In an address to the nation, President Touadera said he had consulted the Speaker of the National Assembly and the President of the Constitutional Court before announcing the plan for a referendum. Touadera said he had decided to submit the project for a new constitution to a referendum. He said the current constitution contains provisions that could compromise CAR's development, but added that he was committed to allowing a political transition. Away from that, the U.S. has announced measures against Kosovo for ignoring its advice to avoid raising tensions in majority Serb northern areas. It has criticized Kosovo's decision to install ethnic Albanian mayors in northern Kosovo by forcible means. Kosovo has been expelled from participating in an ongoing American-led military exercise in Europe. Reports say that police and NATO troops clashed with Serb protesters in Zecan, North Kosovo. Protesters have tried to invade a government building amid unrest over the installation of ethnic Albanian mayors in areas where Serbs make up the majority of the population. The NATO is to deploy an additional 700 troops to Kosovo after saying 30 of its peacekeepers and 52 protesters were hurt in the clashes in Zecan. Meanwhile, an American woman who accused U.S. President Joe Biden of sexually assaulting her has flown to Moscow and is seeking Russian citizenship. Speaking to a state-run Russian news outlet, Tara Reid, aged 59, said she felt safe in the country and wanted to stay. Reid alleged Biden assaulted her while she was working in his congressional office in 1993. He strongly denied her allegation, saying, open quote, unequivocally, it never happened, close quote. Now, Reid worked as an assistant to Biden when he was a senator for Delaware, and she made headlines in 2020 as his presidential campaign was getting underway when she claimed that he assaulted her in a Capitol Hill corridor when she was 29. And she accused him of forcing her against a wall and putting his hands under her shirt and skirt. Away from that, the UN Security Council has renewed an arms embargo and sanctions imposed on South Sudan for an additional year, including asset freezes and travel bans on some individuals. The Council voted on Tuesday with 10 votes in favor and 5 members abstaining. It directed all UN member states to prevent the direct or indirect supply, sale, or transfer of arms to South Sudan. The arms embargo was extended until May next year, with the Council expressing concern over the continued intensification of violence, prolonging the political, security, economic, and humanitarian crisis in most parts of the country. Ambassador Akoy Bona Marwell from South Sudan protested against the vote, saying it was done in bad faith and ill intention. After the break, 2 Iranian female journalists who helped break the story of Mahsa Amini's death in custody in September have gone on trial before a revolutionary court. Stay with us for details on this and more right after the break.
Nigerian police force, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters counsel is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Thanks for staying tuned. Now, South Africa plans to change its law so that it has the power to decide whether or not to arrest a leader wanted by the International Criminal Court (ICC). The Deputy Minister Obed Bapela's remarks to media come amid intense speculation over whether South Africa stands by its invitation to Russia's President Putin to visit in August. The ICC has issued an arrest warrant for Putin over the Ukraine war. South Africa had earlier invited him to attend a summit of BRICS leaders, but Russia has not said whether Putin plans to attend the summit. Meanwhile, Pretoria has also granted diplomatic immunity to Russian officials attending, something that its Foreign Affairs Department described as standard procedure. BRICS is intended to strengthen ties between the nations that make it up: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Away from that, Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has visited Brazil for the first time since he was banned by former far-right President Jair Bolsonaro in 2019. Maduro was received by the new president, fellow leftist Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, ahead of a summit of Latin American leaders in Brasilia. Maduro talked of a new era in bilateral relations, while Lula said the region should tackle poverty. A number of countries questioned the legitimacy of Maduro, who is described by opponents as a dictator. In a separate development, two Iranian female journalists who helped break the story of Mahsa Amini's death in custody in September have gone on trial before a revolutionary court. Niloufar Hamedi and Elahe Mohammadi have been charged with collaborating with the alleged hostile U.S. government and propaganda against the establishment. Hamedi's husband said a trial opened in Tehran on Tuesday, a day after Mohammadi's began. The women deny the charges and insist that they were just doing their jobs. Iranian authorities have arrested at least 75 journalists since mass anti-government protests swept across the country in the wake of Amini's death, according to Reporters Without Borders (RSF). The 17, including Hamedi and Mohammadi, are still in prison. In a separate development, 5 members of a Palestinian militant group have been killed and several more wounded by an explosion in Lebanon, close to the border with Syria. The Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine General Command, PFLP-GC, blamed Israel for the blast, saying it carried out an airstrike on a site in the eastern town of Qusayr overnight. But an Israeli source told media that its military was not involved. Lebanese security sources said it was caused by munitions being moved around. It comes amid growing tensions between Israel and militants in Lebanon and Syria, who are armed and backed by Iran. Away from that, embattled Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes has reported to the federal prison where she will serve an 11-year sentence. Holmes, aged 39, was convicted early last year on 4 counts of fraud linked to her failed blood testing startup. In mid-May, a court rejected her request to remain free on bail, while a challenge to the original conviction was conceded. She will serve her term in a minimum security prison in Texas. Holmes reported to the federal facility in Bryan, Texas, which holds between 500 and 700 inmates at any given time on Tuesday. It is about 100 miles north of Houston, her hometown. Her arrival at the facility was confirmed by the Federal Bureau of Prisons, which declined to give any more details about her confinement, citing privacy concerns. Now, the woman, once billed as the world's youngest self-made billionaire, might work alongside other inmates for between 12 cents and $1.15 an hour, much of which will go towards her court-mandated restitution payments. Earlier this month, a U.S. judge ordered Holmes and her former romantic and business partner, ex-Theranos boss Ramesh Sunny Balwani, to pay $452 million to victims. Balwani is already serving a 13-year prison sentence in California for his role in the scheme. Now, still in business stories, Tesla chief executive Elon Musk is in China as he makes his first trip to the world's second-largest economy in over 3 years. He arrived in Beijing on Tuesday and was also expected to visit Tesla's huge manufacturing plant in Shanghai. The multi-billionaire met China's foreign minister Qin Gang within hours of arriving in the country. Later on Wednesday, Musk met China's industry minister Jin Zhuanglong and discussed the development of electric vehicles. In a statement on Tuesday, China's foreign ministry said that Musk was willing to expand the car maker's business in the country, which is Tesla's biggest market after the US. The ministry added that during the meeting, Musk had described the economies of the US and China as conjoined twins. Meanwhile, the United Nations has started an operation to remove 1.1 million barrels of oil from a decaying supertanker moored off Yemen's Red Sea coast. A salvage vessel with a crew of experts reached the FSO Safer on Tuesday. They will undertake work to make it secure for oil to be transferred to another tanker, Nautica, which is due to sail from Djibouti next month. There is an imminent risk that the Safer could explode or break apart, causing an environmental catastrophe. The UN has so far raised $114 million to pay for the unprecedented project through donations from dozens of member states, private companies, and even the general public through a crowdfunding campaign. But it says another $29 million is urgently required, including to safely moor the Nautica to an anchored loading buoy and tow the Safer to a recycling yard. Separately, Air New Zealand is weighing passengers before they board international flights as part of a survey to determine average passenger weight. The weight will be anonymously recorded in a database but not be visible to airline staff or other passengers, according to the firm. Now, Air New Zealand said knowing average passenger weight would improve fuel efficiency in the future, adding that participation in the survey is voluntary. Away from that, an Indian official who made headlines after he drained a dam to retrieve his phone has been fined by the government. Rajesh Vishwas has been ordered to pay 53,092 rupees, equivalent to $642, for pumping out millions of liters of water without seeking permission from authorities. He had dropped the device while taking a selfie and claimed it needed retrieving as it contained sensitive government data. but he has been accused of misusing his position. The food inspector dropped his Samsung phone worth about 100,000 rupees into the Kikata Dam in the central Indian state of Chhattisgarh last week. Vishwas said in a video statement quoted in the media that after local divers could not find the phone, he paid for a diesel pump to be brought in. The pump ran for several days, emptying out thousands of liters of water, but by the time the phone was found, it was too waterlogged to work. Now, at the time, Vishwas had told the media that he had verbal permission from an official to drain some water into a nearby canal, adding that the official said it would in fact benefit the farmers who would have more water. On global entertainment, one of Africa's most celebrated authors and playwrights, Ghanaian Amata Idol, has died aged 81. A renowned feminist, she depicted and celebrated the condition of African women in works such as The Dilemma of a Ghost, Our Sister Killjoy, and Changes. She opposed what she described as a Western perception that the African female is a downtrodden wretch. She also served as education minister in the early 1980s, but resigned when she could not make education free. In a statement, her family said their beloved relative and writer passed away after a short illness, requesting privacy to allow them grieve. She's said to have been a major influence on the younger generation of writers, including Nigeria's award-winning Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And finally, on Worldview today, actor Al Pacino is expecting his fourth child at the age of 83, according to his representative's confirmation. The Godfather star has announced his 29-year-old girlfriend, Noor Al-Fala, is 8 months pregnant. According to U.S. media reports, Pacino and Al-Fala have been together since the COVID-19 pandemic. Pacino already has 3 children, 2 with Beverly D'Angelo and 1 with Jan Tartt. In a career spanning more than 5 decades, Pacino has appeared in The Irishman, The Godfather, Scarface, and Scent of a Woman, winning an Oscar for Best Actor for the latter. Al-Fala works in the film industry and has produced films such as Billy Knight, Little Death and Brosa Nostra. She previously dated musician Mick Jagger in 2017. Pacino's co-star from The Godfather Part 2, Robert De Niro, recently announced he had welcomed his 7th child at the age of 79. And with that, we wrap up our package for you on Worldview today. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. My name is Xavier Roberts, reaching you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom, and you have been watching Worldview on Spectrum TV. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.